Welcome to PandaAudioBooks, the perfect place for a huge collection of fantasy novels. If you enjoy my content and want to support my work, a small contribution via PayPal is greatly appreciated. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell to stay updated with our latest audiobook chapters. Chapter 1436, The Sparring Arena. Han Li walked along a stone path in a leisurely manner and admired the view around him. At first glance, there was no one there, but when he raised his head, he found a few people that were flying. The flying spirit tribe were originally accustomed to flight, so the paths on the ground were mostly for decoration. When Han Li thought of how many powerful flying spirit tribe members have gathered, he couldn't help but inwardly sigh. Let alone other things, the 72 branches of the flying spirit tribe each had a group of elders as well as a group of 30-some elders overseeing the entire tribe. Their power far exceeded that of Deep Heaven City. After all, during times of peace, Deep Heaven City only had 10 body integration elders standing guard. During war, the demon and humans could gather together nearly 100 body integration existences, but this was the power of 2 races. Alone, neither the humans nor demons could hope to rival the true power of the flying spirit tribe. As for the number of deity transformation and spatial tempering existences, that wasn't something that the humans or demons could rival. In that case, despite how long the humans had established themselves in the spirit realm, they were considered a somewhat weaker power. Comparatively, the flying spirit tribe's power wasn't as high as the legendary races of the spirit realm, but they were enough to be considered a mid-grade existence. As Han Li inwardly pondered this, he turned a corner and discovered a small booth in front of him. It connected to several other roads. There were 2 wooden chairs in the booth, occupied by 2 white-clothed women that were having a pleasant chat. When they saw that someone else had arrived, they stopped and looked over. One of the 2 was a dainty woman that had led Han Li's group to their residences, Xiaoxia. After some thought, Han Li politely asked, "So it was Lady Xiaoxia. Could you tell me if my companion has passed this place recently?" Xiaoxia stood up and answered with a smile, "Young Master Han must be talking about his junior sister Lei. Not long before, I have seen her pass by. She seemed to be heading in the direction of the sparring arena." Han Li's heart dropped and he asked, "The sparring arena? Was she alone?" Xiaoxia blinked and gave a meaningful smile. "No, she was accompanied by the Kai Rong's young Miss Hong Shou." "Many thanks." Han Li's face remained calm and he gave a brief smile before heading towards the path to the sparring arena. When the 2 white-robed women saw this, they exchanged a glance of astonishment. The Qianpeng holy disciple remained calm upon hearing that his companion was led there by a hostile branch. He was quite unordinary. Unbeknownst to them, Han Li only appeared calm while he was actually quite angry. That Qianpeng woman Lei Lan didn't know what was good for her. Although he didn't know what the Kai Rong did to get her over there, it was clear they didn't have any good intentions. If they deliberately injured her under the guise of an accident, the chances of passing the trial would grow even slimmer. He couldn't remain indifferent about the matter. After all, he placed his name in the Qianpeng vow and made a supplemental agreement with Jin Yu. If he didn't have one of the holy disciples become a holy master, he would be greatly troubled. He was certain the Qianpeng elders wouldn't leave him alone as their clan was annexed. When Han Li recalled the particulars about the Earth Abyss trial, he inwardly sighed. This time, he would acquire important benefits from the Qianpeng race, but he was also drawn into trouble. Even if he assisted the Qianpeng in escaping their dilemma, he would also need to make proper plans to leave. With that in mind, Han Li stepped forward calmly and eventually arrived at the corner. Then, he flickered and blurred out of sight. The so-called sparring arena was found easily. It wasn't as far as Han Li had imagined. After making use of his quick movement abilities, it only took him the time to finish a meal before he arrived at a huge light barrier. He faintly heard the sounds of an explosion from there. His expression stirred and he ceased his movement techniques, instead moving closer on foot. Since Kai Qian had taken the initiative to tell him Lei Lan's whereabouts, their plan should have been to challenge him. So long as he doesn't appear, the Kai Rong won't immediately make trouble. Furthermore, even if they were impatient to act, It was too late for him to do anything, so there was no point in rushing. With that in mind, Han Li's eyes flickered with blue light as he gazed into the light barrier. It appeared people were making full use of their abilities in battle. Fortunately, those that were battling didn't use any transformation abilities. One of them was controlling fire and the other breathing blue icy chi. Han Li was relieved that neither of them was Lei Lan. The woman controlling the fire should be the Kai Rong's holy disciple Hong Shou. Feeling somewhat baffled, Han Li suddenly sensed someone looking at him with icy eyes from a distance. As Han Li possessed sharp senses, he immediately looked back to find this person. However, Han Li only felt his heart tremble. The glance immediately disappeared and he couldn't find the person in the crowd. Han Li's expression sank and he pondered for a moment. He gave up on his search and quickly made his way to the sparring arena. But before he arrived, the raging flames and icy chi fiercely flashed, instantly deciding the outcome of the battle. The blue-winged man instantly was repeatedly pushed back by the raging flames and he eventually conceded and dropped to the ground. Hong Shou, a beauty to begin with, wore a seductive smile and said, "Junior Sister Lei, I've already dealt with him. If you want the Lightning Star Stone, I'll hand it over to you if you defeat me. I definitely won't break my promise." Many of the Flying Spirit Tribe's men felt their minds roil when they saw her face. Han Li inwardly shouted no, but at this distance, there was nothing he could do. A ball of white light flashed and floated to the sky. They had a slender figure and silver wings. She was Lei Lan without a doubt. Han Li's face sank. The Kai Rong woman had instantly defeated an opponent in an instant and was now challenging Lei Lan. It clearly wasn't a coincidence. It was clear someone had spotted him and secretly informed her, thus setting their plan into motion. However, he took several breaths and his expression became calm once more. He rushed forward to the side of the stage and looked for a nearby area before standing still. Lei Lan expressionlessly said, "You used the Lightning Star Stone to drag me here from my residence. You've wanted to fight me in any case. Regardless of your intentions, so long I can acquire the stone, I won't hold back." She spread her silver wings and bolts of silver lightning appeared in the air. They quickly spread across her body as if she were a spirit of lightning. Hong Shou paid no mind to this and giggled, shooting a glance in Han Li's direction. "So it turns out that Junior Sister has some skill. I'll definitely present the Lightning Star Stone to you." A few of the branches below knew of the resentment between the Kai Rong and Qian Peng and began to whisper to another. They planned to enjoy the drama that would ensue. Han Li stood in place with his hands behind his back without any intent to interrupt them. Hong Shou giggled, but she inwardly felt somewhat anxious. If Han Li didn't stop them, then she wouldn't be able to use the tricks she prepared. It appeared she would have to change her plans. The woman pondered for just a moment and didn't hesitate any further. She formed an incantation gesture and red light brightly glowed from her body. Bowl-sized red fireballs began to appear around her, filling the sky with red lights. The temperature in the arena massively rose and became difficult to endure. Those with lesser cultivation among the spectators were forced to take several steps back before they could endure the heat. Han Li's brow stirred when he saw this, but he remained in his original place. When Lei Lan saw this, she wordlessly spread her wings and cast a spell. Thunder rang from the air and the lightning wrapped around her grew several times thicker. From a distance, it looked as if a huge silver python was coiled in the air before it scattered into countless silver threads in an attack. Each of the silver threads flashed, drilling holes through the fireballs. In the blink of an eye, thunder clapped to no end. Countless fireballs erupted and turned into scattered embers. The ability to control strands of lightning not only surprised Han Li, but it also turned the spectators restless. Hong Shou also revealed a trace of surprise, but soon, she sneered. With a shake of her sleeve, she released a red mist and had it dance around her. As the red mist brushed through the air, the embers gathered to the red mist and concentrated towards Hong Shou. In the blink of an eye, a huge fire cloud appeared in the air, completely hiding Hong Shou from view. The fire cloud roiled without end and a series of waves rushed outward. But soon, it condensed back to the center into a giant 30-meter-wide fireball. The fireball turned in the air and let out a fearsome hum before flying in Lei Lan's direction. Lei Lan's face slightly changed and she raised her hand. Silver light erupted, followed by a clap of thunder. Her entire arm was wrapped in countless thin arcs of lightning. In a silver flash, they fused together. With a loud eruption, a huge arc of lightning shot out from her arm to directly meet the giant fireball. Chapter 1437. Test. With a clap of thunder, a thick bolt of silver lightning entered the huge fireball. Just as most of the crowd believed the silver lightning penetrated the fireball, the lightning disappeared in a flash as if it were consumed. In her alarm, the fireball quickly arrived before her with astonishing momentum. After some brief hesitation, Lei Lan shot backwards and folded her wings around her. Suddenly, layers of lightning began to form around her. In the shining light, she transformed into a silver-white peng bird. Silver lightning jumped across her body and an odd necklace appeared around her neck. A dazzling golden gourd several inches tall floated on top of it. She finally decided to use her last trump card and strike down her opponent. When the huge fireball saw the peng bird, it immediately stopped its tracks. As a muffled explosion boomed, the fireball suddenly transformed into a scarlet firebird. The firebird was several times larger than the peng bird, but the peng showed no fear. With a clear sound, its entire body massively surged in size, rivaling that of the firebird. Afterwards, countless bolts of lightning shot out from its mouth. The firebird was fearless as well and surged its flames. It clawed at the air, releasing 10 crimson claw streaks. The huge wingspan of the birds along with the increasing chaos of the battle concealed nearly half of what was occurring inside the light barrier. Blood and feathers occasionally fell from the air. But an instant later, whatever fell to the ground would instantly disappear. This was expected by the crowd. After an early-grade spirit general like Lei Lan transforms, they wouldn't continue to stall the battle while at a disadvantage but aggressively attempt to turn the tide. The lightning surrounding her entire body turned from silver-white to a faint purple and its might greatly increased. Han Li stared at the lightning bird with his bright-sight spirit eyes and an odd expression appeared on his face. The others only believed that the lightning bird used a technique on itself to increase the might of its lightning. But with his spirit eyes, he could clearly see that the purple lightning wasn't something that was produced from the bird's body. It came from the small golden gourd that floated around its neck. When a spark of purple lightning from the gourd touched the bird's silver lightning, they seamlessly fused together, turning her silver lightning to a faint purple. The purple lightning sparks also seemed to have quite a background. Hong Shou was caught off guard, furious at having lost control of the battle. Although she didn't know what Lei Lan did, she clearly used an extraordinary technique. Otherwise, Lei Lan wouldn't prove to be her opponent, given her cultivation. At that moment, Hong Shou heard several male voices in her ear. Although their voices weren't loud, they caused her heart to tremble. She promptly discarded her last trace of hesitation and spread her wings in preparation of using her killing move. A strangely long feather shot out from the top of Firebird's head. Then in a burst of flames, the feather turned into an exact copy of the Firebird. It opened its mouth and immediately spat out a chain of fireballs, creating a wave of roiling flames inside the arena barrier. The peng bird was immediately overwhelmed by the attack from the second Firebird. Seeing that she wouldn't be a match, Lei Lan let out a furious shriek. Fire and lightning collided. The light barrier shuddered and the nearby air began to faintly warp. This also blurred the battle between the Firebird and the silver peng. However, it was clear that the silver bird was facing imminent crisis and wouldn't hold out for much longer. Perhaps she would soon be defeated with heavy injury. Han Li observed this in silence for a moment longer before he suddenly spread out his wings. In a clap of thunder, he turned into a bolt of white azure lightning. Meanwhile, a black silhouette flickered from another point in the crowd and also silently vanished. Bang! A 30-meter-long golden sword light appeared in the air, cleaving through the clashing fire and lightning as soon as it appeared. But before the sword light reached the battle, a faint white arc suddenly appeared in front of it, producing a sharp metallic shriek. Fire, lightning, and the white arc collided, destroying all trace of one another. When the two Firebirds and the silver peng saw the flash of golden light, an incredibly sharp attack had arrived above their heads and swung down. The three birds had no way to block it. In their alarm, they couldn't continue the battle. They immediately withdrew their attacks and retreated. The huge sword light harmlessly fell between the two sides. As for the white arc, it remained in its original place but soon released enormous energy. A windstorm was conjured near it. A large quantity of worldly essence chi gathered at the white arc as if a spatial tear was about to open. The spectators of the battle were thrown into chaos. The lightning bird in particular withdrew her lightning and turned back into her young woman form with an expression of bewilderment on her face. "You aren't a match for her. Don't continue to struggle." A faint voice sounded from behind Lei Lan as if the speaker was right behind her. The silver-clothed woman's face changed and she hastily turned around to find a youth standing there, Han Li. So it was Han Li who had taken action. Lei Lan said with bewilderment. The power of the swordlight was something she had expected from a great spirit general. The fearsome swordlight and the white scar it produced had disappeared. The worldly essence chi turned calm as well. But at that moment, Han Li wasn't looking at Lei Lan but was staring across from her. Startled, Lei Lan followed his eyes. She discovered that Hong Shaw also returned to her human form and withdrew her doppelganger. She looked over at them with a mysterious smile. After Han Li separated them, a red-clothed youth with a harsh expression had appeared at her side. The youth was Xianxia, the Kai Rong holy disciple Lei Lan was most wary of. LL couldn't help but feel a chill over her heart. Xianxia smirked and said, "Brother Han, I heard that you've been cultivating overseas all this time and have only recently returned to the Qian Peng race. I am quite curious about your abilities. Could you teach me a thing or two?" The strike Han Li had just released caused his heart to sink. From that display, he knew Han Li's abilities were quite powerful. But in order to take measure of Han Li's true power, he calmly challenged Han Li in accordance with their original plan. Xianxia's reputation far outshined the likes of Hong Shaw and Lei Lan. With his appearance, the spectators immediately recognized him. With news that Xianxia had challenged someone else, the crowd grew excited. It was rare to see two equals of great power face one another. The difference in fame was clear, but the other was a high-grade spirit general. The fight was likely to display things that were rarely seen. Lei Lan frowned when she heard this, but a flash of realization suddenly appeared on her face. It appeared she finally saw that the Kai Rong's objective was her senior martial brother Han standing behind her. She was only bait. "I have no interest in fighting you." Han Li smiled and spoke with a casual tone. He, since you've already entered the restriction, you cannot refuse. Brother Han, please take my attack." The youth raised his hand. With a red flash from his palm, it turned into a scarlet claw, revealing 5 sharp points that glistened like red gems. Han Li frowned. Without another word, the youth swiped his scarlet claw through the air. Space ripped as the 5 scarlet talons shot forward. They instantly vanished after a flash of red light. Han Li's expression stirred, suddenly raising his arm, spreading out his pitch-black fingers in front of him. Suddenly, the air 30 meters in front of him violently shook where 5 claw streaks appeared and blurred towards him. Han Li's expression faintly changed when he saw the scarlet streaks appear. They were originally only a foot long, but when they reappeared, they were 3 meters long. The attacks were continually absorbing nearby spiritual chi and surging in size. But before the streaks grew close, Han Li already sensed an astonishing spiritual pressure directly approaching him. If his cultivation was weaker, the claw streaks would have froze his body and mind, preventing him from reacting as the streaks overwhelmed him. As Han Li felt completely aghast, his pitch-black fingers suddenly flashed with light, producing a small black mountain in the air. In a flash, it immediately turned 30 meters large. Han Li was now securely protected with the black mountain in front of him. Red light flashed, followed by successive muffled bangs. A burning heat drifted towards Han Li, causing him to feel slight burns, but the mountain remained floating in the air, completely unharmed. Yi! Xianxia was shocked by this result. Han Li's spiritual sense quickly brushed past the essence-fused mountain and his face sunk. Bang! He slapped his palm on top of the small mountain. The mountain promptly spun in the air, now pointing the side that was struck in Han Li's direction. On the mountain's black surface, there were partially melted 5-inch deep claw marks. Han Li coldly snorted and pressed his black hand on the mountain. Black light roamed across the mountain for a spell, mending all the damage that it had incurred. Since Brother Zhu wants a lesson, I'll have to provide instruction. With that said, he blurred, appearing at the side of the mountain. He flapped his wings, revealing an azure peng phantom from his back. Meanwhile, a chain of booms sounded as 4 azure tornadoes soared to the sky around him, filling the air with their screams. Chapter 1438. Earth Abyss Guard. Xianxia glanced at the azure peng phantom from a distance as it spread out its wings. Suddenly, the 4 tornadoes ruptured, sending countless azure wind blades in Xianxia's direction. For a time, only glaring azure light and tearing winds could be observed from the light barrier. When Xianxia saw the ferocious might of Han Li's attack, his expression froze. However, his fame was well earned. He took a deep breath and his wings swelled several times in size before he wildly fanned them. Red light brilliantly flashed and dense blooms of flame began to spread all around. With his hands forming an incantation gesture, Xianxia formed countless scarlet flame arrows and released them. The barrage's momentum was no lesser than Han Li's wind blades. In an instant, the air was divided into 2, with one half filled with azure streaks and faint azure blades, and the other filled with sparkling red light and roiling flames. A thin line formed where the attacks met. As azure and red light intertwined, countless explosions boomed. For a time, the two sides found themselves in deadlock. Han Li remained expressionless, but his incantation gestures changed and the sound of thunder faintly sounded from his sleeve. With 2 claps, 2 thick bolts of golden lightning shot out of his sleeve, fusing in midair to form a dense golden lightning WM. Under Han Li's mental control, the lightning WM waved its head and tail, flashing 100 meters forward right in front of Xianxia. As rolls of thunder sounded out from it, it pounced at him. The lightning WIRM's incredible speed frightened even Xianxia. Without another thought, Xianxia spat out a scarlet ball gleaming with light. Boom! The ball and the flood dragon collided, resulting in a blinding light. Soon after, the spiritual chi roiled and turned into a 10-meter-wide fire tornado that soared to the sky. The tornado was mixed with sparks of golden lightning and thunder repeatedly clapped from it. A burning wind spread out in every direction. Under the pressure, Xianxia unconsciously took several steps back and turned to look in Han Li's direction. Startled, his face vastly changed. Han Li was no longer standing in his original place. Rather, he brought Lei Lan near the ground at the edge of the light barrier as if they were about to leave. In his fury, Xianxia raised his arm and pointed at him. With a rustle of wind, red line briefly flickered and shot forward. However, Han Li was already prepared. With a raised brow, he pointed back. Red light flashed and a similar red line was launched. It was a fire spirit thread. A crackle sounded. The 2 lines flashed in midair, accurately striking one another. As a result, Han Li's fire thread was repelled with slight damage, while Xianxia's line was disappeared entirely. A short moment later, Han Li and Lei Lan flickered, reappearing outside of the arena barrier. The nearby spectators took several steps back and looked at the two with astonishment. Seeing he could do nothing to prevent Han Li from leaving, he raised his voice and harshly shouted, "Brother Han, you fled without fighting. Do you not fear tarnishing your clan's reputation?" Han Li glanced back at him and indifferently said, "You should understand my thoughts. We can't determine an outcome in a short amount of time. I also carry a heavy responsibility, so we'll only be able to fight later." Soon after, he spread his wings and soared to the distant sky without care. Lei Lan's expression wavered and she eventually followed after Han Li. When Xianxia saw Han Li bluntly depart, his expression sank. From the side, Hong Shou hesitantly asked, "Senior Marshal Brother Zhu, do you want to pursue them?" Xianxia snorted. "How would we? We can't fight outside the sparring arena." I didn't think that he would leave so quickly after fighting. Although we've only exchanged 2 blows, we discovered that he's proficient in wind and lightning, so it wasn't a wasted effort. Additionally, we've noticed his small mountain treasure, which blocked my scarlet flame claw. How troublesome. We'll have to go back and think of a way to destroy him. With a careful heart, the woman only uttered a word of acknowledgement. Thus, the two descended and gathered with the Kai Rong in the crowd before departing. The remaining Flying Spirit tribe members then began to discuss the appearance of Han Li. Jin Yu stared at the pitiful silver-robed Lei Lan and coldly asked, "Did I not instruct you 3 times over to not travel alone? Why did you go and fight the Kai Rong at the sparring stage?" At that moment, the Kai Rong Grand Elder was sitting in the first-floor hall of their residence with an icy face. Elder Xianxia sat at her side. He also appeared displeased. Lei Lan appeared bloodlessly pale. Bai Bai and Han Li stood at the side. Bai Bai was silent, restless, and hung his head while Han Li appeared calm. Not long after Han Li brought back Lei Lan, the two elders immediately discovered what happened and rushed over. They were giving a harsh rebuke to the 2 holy disciples. Although the one to blame was Lei Lan, Bai Bai hadn't done anything to stop her and shared responsibility. Lei Lan eventually muttered, "Gran Elder, that Kai Rong disciple Hong Shaw had a lightning star stone. If I could acquire it, I have at least a 30% chance of later entering the Great Spirit General stage." My judgment wavered. Jin Yu resentfully said, "A lightning star stone? It is no wonder you were tempted, but that wasn't a reason to take such careless actions. Your lives and cultivation are the life and death of the clan. You should understand the weight of your actions. In order to nurture the 2 of you, our clan had provided you with countless medicines and treasures, allowing you to reach this cultivation stage in a short time, and will continue to do so in the future. If this were not the case, you wouldn't have reached Spirit General stage, no matter your talents." Lei Lan didn't reply and simply wore a face of shame. As she thought of something to say, Elder Xianxia smiled and said, "All right, Elder Jin. Although Lei Lan has been rash, fellow Daoist Han managed to arrive in time and nothing of consequence occurred. Fellow Daoist Han, how do you see the situation?" "The Kai Rong most likely had doubts about me and wanted to test my skill," Han Li replied with a smile. Elder Xianxia chuckled and said, "I heard that you stood on equal grounds with Zhu Yinzi and even withdrew yourself. A very wise decision." "I understand how important this matter is," Han Li replied. Jin Yu pondered for a moment and spoke with unquestionable authority. "From this day, none of you 3 will take a step outside this building. You may only rest and cultivate. For other matters, hand them over to us to deal with." "Yes, Grand Elder." Bai Bai and Lei Lan respectfully answered. Han Li offered a salute to express his agreement. To this day, Han Li's identity in the Qianpeng had been odd. He was a holy disciple in name, but in truth, he was closer to a guest official. And with Qianpeng making demands of him, he could only be polite in return. Once Jin Yu and Elder Xianxia left, Han Li and the 3 entered and remained in secluded cultivation. 2 weeks later, Jin Yu and the other Flying Spirit tribe elders assembled on top of Jade Emperor Peak, discussing something. 2 months later, several thousand huge birds and flying insects rushed past a desolate yellow plateau. Mounted on top of the birds and insects were winged beings. They had set off from Jade Emperor Peak and were on their way to the entrance of the Earth Abyss. Han Li and the Qianpeng were saddled on white huge birds at the center of the group. Although the group was large and they've been flying for quite some time, very little was said on the trip. Han Li also sat cross-legged on his bird and was silently looking around him. The entrance to the Earth Abyss was much farther from Jade Emperor Peak than he imagined. Suddenly, there was an uproar from the Flying Spirit tribe members from the front and a few of them shouted in alarm. The group suddenly flowed down. Han Li's expression stirred and he immediately sent his spiritual sense to the front. 500 kilometers in front of them, a huge wall had suddenly appeared before them. It was azure gray and was over a kilometer tall. The wall spread to either side as far as the eye could see. Every 300-meter segment on the wall, there stood a pure white jade pillar. The pillar was only 30 meters tall, but its surface gleamed with azure light and was covered in mysterious talisman markings. To the side of the huge wall, there was a dense gathering of round buildings that were 100 meters tall. There seemed to be several thousand in number. Above these buildings flew a myriad of Flying Spirit tribe beings that were awaiting them. The holy disciples and the elders gradually drew closer before coming to a stop. "Greetings, elders." An azure-armored, middle-aged man flew out towards them and saluted them from a distance. "So this year, my old pal Jin Feng was on duty. How fortunate." Brother Jin, you should have received the information we've given you. From Han Li's side, several people flew out. This included an old woman with a cane, a middle-aged man with snow-white hair, and an old man with azure thorns on his face. They were the most influential of the Council of Elders and were speaking to the middle-aged man. Even they appeared very respectful when facing this azure-armored man. Chapter 1439, The Four Fiend Armor Technique. Han Li glanced at the azure-armored man and felt his heart tremble. His cultivation was unfathomably deep, no lesser than the 3 grand elders that have rushed to meet him. It was no wonder they were so polite. Furthermore, this person's azure armor was somewhat particular. Its designs were quite simple and its surface was a dull gray, but it has its talisman characters similar to decorative patterns. But when Han Li brushed his spiritual sense past the armor, it gave him a familiar sensation. He took another glance at it, then suddenly widely opening his eyes as if he saw something inconceivable. If he was correct, the so-called azure armor should have been something condensed from extremely concentrated baleful qi. This explained why the aura gave him a familiar feeling. Despite the amount of baleful qi on his body, he appeared well and was able to use it to create armor. This ability was truly outrageous. In his alarm, he looked around and noticed others that were wearing azure armor among the flying spirit tribe. Each of them wore armor of varying colors. Blue light flashed from Han Li's eyes and he narrowed his sight. Their armor was also formed from baleful qi. But because of their weaker cultivation or lacking baleful qi, their armor appeared vague as if they weren't as condensed. When Han Li saw the different armors formed by baleful qi, he was deeply shocked and began to ponder about them. At that moment, the azure-armored man looked at the crowd behind the 3 grand elders and wore a smile. How could I forget about our tribe's 300-year trial? However, the demons in the closest earth abyss are agitated. If you wait another 2 years, I wouldn't agree with having the trial. The old man chuckled. That is why we moved the date of the trial earlier when we heard your news. There shouldn't be a problem starting now, right? The azure-armored man indifferently answered, no. Although the dark qi is more dangerous than usual, an official eruption will take a year at least. However, the dark demons underground will not stay in the nest levels, so I can't guarantee that the demons on the first 3 layers will be spirit general grade. The chances of encountering high-grade Earth Abyss demons will be much higher, but those at Demon King level won't likely appear. As the dangerous ones, if you find them to be too harmful, don't blame me for not warning you. So long as no Demon King grade existences appear, the trial will go on, the white-haired man said with a firm voice. The old woman frowned and slowly said, I have no objections. If we miss this opportunity, we won't be able to conduct the trial for at least another 100 years. Many of our branches cannot wait that long. The tattooed old man muttered to himself for a moment and nodded with a sigh. The azure-armored man chuckled at their approval and raised his hand to the air. A fist-sized azure light ball shot out. In a flash, it strangely appeared a kilometer in the air. Following the explosion of the light ball, a huge world-shaking boom shook the air and a halo of azure light rushed out from the result. Soon after, a 10-meter-wide azure sun rose to the sky, shining with a blinding light. The armored flying spirit tribe beings behind the azure-armored man immediately separated into 2 lines, forming a path in the air. Their cultivation all differed, but their silent and disciplined movement produced a formless pressure. When the others saw this, the various elders were better off, showing only a brief change in expression, but Han Li and the other holy disciples became restless with most wearing expressions of astonishment. The 3 elders in front then waved their arms behind them before moving forward together. Suddenly, the entire group went ahead and slowly passed through the armored soldiers in the air. Mounted on top of a huge bird, he narrowed his eyes as he looked at the armored soldiers to either side. He found that most of them wore cold, indifferent faces apart from occasionally looking at them with curious eyes. There were also those that were younger and possessed lesser cultivation. The lowest cultivation among them was at core formation level. And there were many from higher cultivation levels, many of which included those at Great Spirit General stage. Han Li felt apprehension. The Earth Abyss guards that are stationed here were about the same as the guards of Deep Heaven City. However, their numbers were far less than the Deep Heaven guards. But their elites were at a level far beyond those from Deep Heaven City. And considering the people stationed here often fight the demons that emerge from the Earth Abyss, they have richer combat experience than other Flying Spirit tribe members. From the buildings constructed here, it also appears that Earth Abyss guards live here as well. As Han Li's thoughts churned in his mind, the group of holy disciples and elders arrived in front of the span of buildings. The group of elders separated and started guiding the disciples to nearby residences to rest. The trial would soon begin on the morning of the next day. The Qian Peng also entered one of the residences. Jin Yu and Elder Shi guarded the first floor while the holy disciples were each given their own floor so they could rest without disturbance. Han Li frowned. Although he was happy there was a night of rest, Jin Yu and Elder Shi had ordered them to remain inside and stay on different floors. It would interrupt his earlier plans. Han Li sat cross-legged on his bed, but he didn't meditate. Instead, his eyes wandered as his mind began to sink into thought. Not long after, he seemed to have thought of something and chuckled to himself. He then stood up and went to the first floor. When he appeared at the bottom of the stairs, he saw Jin Yu and Elder Shi with their eyes closed as they sat down. But immediately after, they opened their eyes at the same time and looked over in his direction. Han Li felt his heart tremble. Fellow Daoist Han, why aren't you getting proper rest? Could it be that you have something urgent to attend to? Rather than Jin Yu, it was Elder Shi who spoke. I have something I wish to do and I want to take a trip outside, Han Li calmly stated. What is it? Jin Yu said with a trace of dissatisfaction. With the trial right around the corner, she hoped that Han Li would obediently rest in his room, rather than be distracted by other things. Han Li smiled and gave an honest answer. In truth, it isn't much. I found that the Earth Abyss Guard's armor was quite peculiar as it was formed from baleful qi. I was hoping of finding someone that could explain the mysteries behind it. Jin Yu paused and then said with an odd expression, You mean the Four Fiend armor technique? The technique requires an immense amount of baleful qi to use. Otherwise, the technique would be too weak. What do you plan to do with it? Elder Shi also felt somewhat surprised. Han Li smiled and formed an incantation gesture. Golden light shined from his body, emitting an astonishingly deep aura. A dense wave of baleful qi soon burst out from the depths of his body. The baleful qi he refined with the Vajra arts began to concentrate all over his body. Both of the elders were astonished by the display of baleful qi. With such dense baleful qi, it is no wonder you're interested in the Four Fiend Amour technique. But you don't need to go outside. The technique isn't kept secret, and I'm proficient in it as well. I can hand over the entire cultivation art to you. With the immense baleful qi on your body, you may even use the technique tomorrow during the trial. As Elder Shi heartily laughed, he spoke the words that Han Li already anticipated. When he saw so many ordinary Earth Abyss guards comprehend this technique, the Qian Peng elders likely knew this technique as well. Now, his assumption was proven correct. Suppressing his joy, Han Li respectfully answered, Senior Shi, I can't thank you enough. But are the techniques easy to comprehend? Would I be able to use them after a night? Elder Shi waved his hand and casually said, So long as fellow Daoist Han assists Lei Lan and Bai Bai through the trial, I'm the one who should be thanking you. Don't worry, the technique isn't particularly complicated, and with your cultivation, you'll be able to cultivate several layers in a single night. As for the last few layers, they require immense baleful qi, so you won't be able to use them. Han Li nodded several times in response. Jin Yu raised no objections. Instead, she simply closed her eyes again. Elder Shi took out a finger-sized bamboo tube from his robes and muttered to it for a moment before tossing it over to Han Li. I've put the technique in there. You may return. Many thanks, Senior. Han Li then took the tube and climbed up the stairs without delay. He sat cross-legged on his bed and pressed the tube against his forehead and immersed it with his spiritual sense. Suddenly, an ancient green script flowed through Han Li's mind, his face becoming entirely still. Not long after, Han Li put away the tube into his storage pouch and his face relaxed. The set of techniques was as Elder Shi had described. They were simple and he'd be able to condense a layer of baleful armor. With that thought, Han Li rested his hands on his knees and began to comprehend the technique. During this time, a layer of faintly black baleful qi began to appear from his body. The baleful qi roiled and went still for a time. Not long after, his surroundings began to violently stir, creating a faint black wind around him and blurring Han Li's figure from sight. Chapter 1440. Untitled. On the morning of the second day, Bai Bai and Lei Lan descended to the first flood and quietly joined their elders who were calmly standing there as if they were waiting for something. Both of the elders appeared somewhat hopeful, causing the two holy disciples to feel somewhat baffled. They also turned to look at the stairwell. In the time it took to finish a meal, footsteps sounded from above. In a blur, Han Li appeared at the bottom of the stairs with a smile on his face. Elder Shi's eyes lit up and he asked, "Did you succeed?" Han Li smiled, "Many thanks for your kindness. Senior, I almost have it entirely grasped. I should be able to use it to face the enemy." Jinyu closely examined Han Li's face and said, "Very good. This trial will prove much more dangerous than normal. Although fellow Daoist Han possesses the cultivation of a high-grade spirit general, I fear you will counter powerful enemies you won't be able to face. That is why Elder Shi and I have prepared to hand over a clan-protecting treasure to you. As such, if you truly come across something unexpected, you'll be able to defend yourself." "A clan-protecting treasure," Han Li said with a tone of surprise. "That's right. This is the lightning WYRM scissors. Take it." As she spoke, she shook her sleeve and sent out an azure light. Han Li unconsciously raised his hand and took the treasure into his hand. Under closer examination, he found that the scissors were only a half-foot long and appeared quite old. Its surface was a deep azure, but the mysterious silver talisman designs showed it was no ordinary item. Han Li stroked his hand across it and sensed a deep icy qi. With joy in his heart, he asked, "Seniors, are you truly lending this to me?" In truth, there were several other treasures in the tribe that are more suitable for use in the Earth Abyss, but I fear those treasures will take up too much time to refine. These lightning WRM scissors aren't nearly as troublesome. So long as you infuse it with spiritual power, you'll be able to use its awesome power to strike down your enemies. As a result, the treasures are also easily seized by enemies as well. Fellow Daoist Han should use it with care." Jinyu solemnly warned, "Many thanks, Senior. I will take great care using it." Han Li didn't hold back and took the treasure with a smile, knowing that this grand treasure was being handed over in order to help preserve the safety of the holy disciples. Jinyu nodded and spoke to both Bai Bai and Lei Lan but took out nothing else. Han Li didn't pay this any mind. The two should have already been given treasures before they parted from the holy city. During Lei Lan's battle with Hong Shaw in the sparring arena, the golden gourd she used should have been one of those treasures. A short moment later, the five walked out from the building and soared to the sky. There were various other branches that had gathered there earlier. This time, none of them were mounted on birds or flying insects. They were all floating with their wings. Also, the holy disciples of the flying spirit tribe's various branches were gathering together, separated from their elders. The holy disciples were now much different than the day before. They wore solemn expression and were whispering to one another. Han Li blinked, simply bringing his fellow holy disciples to the corner of the group and remaining silent. But not long after, Han Li sensed people looking at him. As his heart stirred, he looked back in their direction. 300 meters away, there was a short skinny girl examining him. Her skin was dark, but strange black tattoos were drawn on her neck. When she saw Han Li looking at her, she smiled, revealing a mouthful of pure white teeth. Han Li felt his heart tremble. He quickly swept his spiritual sense over to her and found that she was also a high-grade spirit general. The strange aura on her body faintly gave him a sense of danger, as if she cultivated a peculiar technique. Han Li showed none of this on his face, instead merely moving his lips. Standing at the side, Bai Bai with his eyes shut suddenly heard Han Li's voice transmission. He opened his eyes in a start and glanced at the skinny short girl. His face greatly changed, and he hastily lowered his head. With a voice of awe, Bai replied in a voice transmission, "Brother Han, that is the 7-pass race's Ao Qing. She is even more famous than Xianxia and is one of the most capable disciples of our generation. However, she is incredibly ruthless and her temperament is odd. She'll take the lives of others without provocation. Brother Han had best avoid her attention." Han Li frowned. Just as he thought why that woman was examining him, he suddenly sensed a gloomy look aimed at him. This time, he felt genuine hostility. Han Li's expression sank and he looked to the side. At another corner of the crowd, he saw Zhu Yinzi and the other Kai Rong disciples look at them with hostile expressions. Han Li coldly returned a glance and expressionlessly looked away. Given the Kai Rong's attitude to the Qian Peng, they were certain to be up to no good. Han Li felt ill at ease over the matter. Because Han Li and company had come somewhat later, they didn't have to wait for much longer. An hour later, the 3 grand elders from the council and the azure-armored man appeared in front of the crowd. The entire group then began to move forward and arrived at a small mountain in front of a huge wall. For some unknown reason, the wall was completely barren. There weren't any patrols or watches above the wall. The azure-armored man then walked in front of the elders and spoke a few words, pointing at the wall. A huge rumbling sounded and the wall stirred. In a flicker of rainbow light flashed, a faint silver spell formation appeared. When the azure-armored man saw this, he immediately opened his mouth and spat a purple wooden badge. The badge brightly lit up and released a purple beam of light. It flickered several times before striking the heart of the formation. Suddenly, the silver spell formation roiled and beaming light roamed. The formation suddenly vanished, but a huge silver gate appeared underneath the wall. The door was 100 meters tall, gleaming with an icy light. From appearance and weight, it appeared to be formed from pure silver. The azure-armored man wordlessly put away the wooden badge and swept his sleeve to the huge door in the distance. Suddenly, a purple light mist swept out and struck the huge gate. A huge gong sounded as the silver gate slowly opened. A grey demonic wind immediately blew out from the gate. As it passed, the holy disciples shuddered, feeling as if knives were being pressed against their skin. It was a truly odd sensation. When Han Li felt how odd the wind was, blue light shined from his eyes. The huge gate opened. Without any hesitation, the holy disciples began to walk through the gate. When Han Li saw what was behind it, he felt his blood run cold. As far as the eye could see, there was only black land, completely lacking light and even a single blade of grass. Be it stone or sand, it was only black as well. The sky was covered in a grey mist that appeared quite dense. It was impossible to see through from below and seemed to have no end. There were cracks in between the mist and the earth about 100 meters tall, but one could hear winds harshly whistled without end as if the cracks would consume everything. Everyone that heard this couldn't help but feel a chill. So this is the Earth Abyss Gate. It looks dangerous as expected, Han Li muttered to himself. The old woman with a cane then said, "All right, we've arrived. Apart from holy disciples, no one else will take a step forward. The Earth Abyss Gate is a myriad kilometers outside the mist." Although her voice wasn't loud, everyone could clearly hear it. Those that were restless immediately calmed down. The white-haired man chuckled, "Since we're here, you all must be anxious. Let's begin making the details clear." The old woman glanced at the white-haired man and calmly said, "The Council of Elders would like to inform you that the demon's mark for this trial will be different from the past few. If you bring back an abyss flame fruit, you will have passed. This spirit fruit is different from the others in that it is found in the areas that are darkest and filled with filthy qi. The fruit needs to be about 500 years of maturation, and each tree only bears one fruit. The darkness on the first level won't be enough for the fruit to grow. Of course, if you're lucky, you could find it there. On the second floor, they may grow there in a small number, but we don't guarantee anything. The third floor is where it is guaranteed that the fruit will grow and in great numbers as well. Act in accordance with your judgment. You have 3 months. After those months, the gate will open again to receive you, regardless if you've succeeded. I hoped you listened well." The old woman's voice was powerful. Knowing the odds of survival through the trial, Han Li listened to each and every one of her words carefully. The tattooed old man sullenly commanded, since we've told you the details of the trial, you may set off. In 3 months, I hope I will see most of you again. As for the others, you will turn back. The devil's ceiling gate will close again." With a wave of his sleeve, he made his way back to the outside without any intention of looking around. The white-haired man and the old woman exchanged a glance before closely following after him. The others in the Council of Elders silently followed them. As for the branch elders, they took a few looks at their clan's holy disciples before heading back. Only a small portion of them sent them off with a voice transmission. In the blink of an eye, the huge gate disappeared, leaving behind a few hundred holy disciples looking at each other in dismay.